Welcome, geeks, to the last Christmas show of the year. Last Christmas show. I've already messed up. Welcome to the last show of the year, which is the Christmas show of the year. As you can see, I'm wearing my Christmas stocking, my LEDs Christmas stocking, because I love LED lights for some reason. And I said for everybody to wear their ugly sweater. And I don't know if you call a Cheap Trick shirt ugly, but I think some people in my family might. But since they're one of my favorite bands, that's what I'm wearing today. So I'm glad you're all here. I'm really, I'm really super happy that I have Jeff Fritz for Microsoft today. I've known Jeff for a while now, and he's, and I think most of you know him because, Jeff can tell us when he's on the show, but, I think he's on the internet doing live streams almost every freaking day of the week. So I'm sure a lot of you see him a lot. And yeah, okay, let's do this. My PowerPoint is messing up. Before I do that, I want to say that I hope everybody's staying safe from the pandemic. Please, during this holiday season, I'm not going to see you for a couple of weeks. Please be safe. Please listen to your medical professionals. Please do what they say, because I want to see you back watching the show next year and back seeing me live at a conference near you next year, as soon as I get the vaccine. And speaking of COVID, my one of my really good friends here in San Diego sent me a text the other day. I think it was yesterday, and it's actually from his daughter, who actually is a nurse that works with COVID patients. And she texted her dad and said, "Don't get into accidents. We don't have any free beds available." So Southern California, specifically Southern California right now, is in a really bad place. And so and because of that, I tweeted yesterday, please stay home during the holidays. None of us want to die because we need to have a ham or whatever you eat at Christmas time. So we can see everybody next year. We can skip 1 year. It's not going to be the end of the world. Okay. So next year, my tour is called, for those about the code, Worldwide Tour 2021. If you want to see where I'll be speaking, please go to that URL. If you want to request me to speak, also go to the same URL. I appreciate it. Also, in the spirit of helping others, which I know we all think about during the holidays. I think, we should all think about it all year, but I know we all do during the holidays. And so during this holiday, I really, really do hope you spend a couple minutes and send one of those recipes family recipes that you have at home, to the Hello World Cookbook, so I can get the book out next year. And the cookbook is full of recipes from technical geeks just like you and me. And but I need more recipes to get it out. All kinds of food, drink, desserts, bread, it doesn't matter. Any kind of recipe you want to send. And since I love Indian food, I need some Indian recipes. I don't think I have any yet. Come on, guys, girls, send them to me. So please support this effort. And 100% of the proceeds goes to the Voice of Slum NGO India, where I visited last year. So it's my last time this year to ask you for help, so please do. Okay, we have 2 giveaways this week, just like we did last week. Everybody's going to get a copy of Code Rush from DevExpress, and then at the very end, I have a question to ask you, and whoever answers first gets the C# Corner swag bag full of stuff. Okay, so I think the first giveaway is right now, of course, and everyone gets a copy of Code Rush from DevExpress. Just go to DevExpress /dotNetDave, and you can download your free licensed real copy of Code Rush and I use CodeRush every single day that I code, and it really helps me to be a more productive coder. And it's been the only one I've used because it's always supported multiple languages, even back in the early days of Visual Studio. So anyway, go there and get a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. All right, it's time for our guest. So I want to welcome Jeff Fritz to the show. Jeff is a Twitch and YouTube partner, as well as the founder of Live Coder Stream Team and a principal program manager at Microsoft's developer division on the Microsoft.NET community team, where he leads the organization of online components of Microsoft top developer events. You can catch Jeff writing .NET code on his video stream called Fritz and Friends on Twitch. And welcome, Jeff.
Hey, there I am. Hello. Good to see you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me today. Hey. I thought I'd wear an ugly sweater.
I know.
I'm properly blinged out in Avengers Endgame style.
See, you have superhero. I have music hero, right? So
there we go.
Not
bad. Not bad.
And so, Jeff, I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't actually seen you live in person for a little bit over 2 years now. So
yeah, gosh, right. Everybody over this past year. I mean, we missed an MVP summit. We missed Build. We missed Ignite. We missed all the events in between, and it's disheartening that we didn't get a chance to get together in person, but there's something about virtual events that, while there's been a lot of them, they're much more accessible to everybody. Folks that wouldn't be able to make it to a Microsoft Build, wouldn't be able to travel to an MVP summit, just two of the events that I'm involved in. Being able to tune in from wherever they are and being able to extend that platform to bring in more folks, and ended up bringing in a lot more folks than we would have expected in person. So I think there's an iteration we need to do on these events and figure out what's next. And, I've got some ideas, and we'll see what we can do with that in 2021 as we look at producing our next round of virtual events.
Yeah, I think one of the things that and I completely agree with you. I've spoken in front of more people this year than ever in my life, because I've been to so many freaking virtual events this year, right? So as far as, head count, basically, it's huge, right? But and so that's the good part. The bad part that I was thinking about earlier on in the pandemic is that, conferences are more about just the sessions, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I've even, I just released an article today on C# Corner saying that I don't go to most sessions anymore, right? To me, conferences, I learn more at conferences by networking, talking to people, hanging out and having a drink or two with some really smart people. And that's really what I get out of conferences, right? And so that networking is what, is missing, of course, from events like this. And I hope that maybe in the future, like big conferences like Build, and we'll come up with some kind of maybe a hybrid model, right? Where some people could do virtual and some people could do in person. And, so the ones who like me, who really love going and being in person, we can do that. And the people that just want to stay home and, watch the session while playing on Twitch, then they can do that, right?
There's something to be said about the hallway track, right? The intersection between sessions, when speakers, other VIPs are hanging out in the hallway, or right there, you run into them at the restaurant, in the hotel, or at the conference center. And you're able to sit down, right? I always make a point when I go to a conference that when I sit down at lunch, I want to sit in the conference common lunch area. And I want to sit with a bunch of folks that I don't I don't know. I
Yes.
want to talk to them. I'm going to put away my name tag that says speaker on it, that says Microsoft, and I just want to talk to them about, how's it going? Well, what do you think of the event? Do you have? Are there topics that you're interested in? Topics we can discuss further and do a little bit of that networking. And I think Build hit a little bit of that. Ignite tried to do it and overdid it, completely missed the mark. But that ability for attendees to speak to each other and make an event about more than just the broadcast. You're right. Now we're talking. Now we've reached next level. And then there's the opportunity of, well, do we really need to have all the speakers on site, or can we have some of the speakers off site and presenting remotely to the room?
Right.
There's all kinds of iterations of that and interactions that we need to explore then because of that, so that our conference sessions become less about I'm talking to you, but become more about I'm teaching you, I'm interacting with you. That next level of conference session, I don't think a lot of speakers in our industry are prepared for, and I don't think a lot of conference organizers are prepared for.
Yeah.
So it's something that I want to test and explore in the first couple months here of 2021. It's definitely more than just, hey, let's start up Microsoft Teams, or let's start up Zoom and just have a chat area off to the side and I'll answer your questions.
It's still not the same,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about the lean back experience. We're here on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Facebook. All of these things, you can lean back. You could be sitting in your rec room, in your family room, have the show on your TV, and have either your laptop out, your phone, and when you're ready to chat and drop a message in chat, and I am watching chat, right? You can do that, and you don't have to be 18 inches from the screen like you would be at your home office.
Yeah.
So there's an experience there that I think, once again, we as conference organizers need to explore a little bit further and understand and appreciate because I think everybody is a little bit over zoomed, over teamed. Is that a thing?
I think after this year, I think we all are pretty much. So, I'm actually good. I'm looking forward to the break, until the season 2 starts, the first week of January. So, so speaking about conferences and all of you working there, and before I forget, as usual, please type in your questions for Jeff into the chat, and we'll see them and answer them. But I'm going to get the ball rolling because I have a couple questions I wrote down for Jeff. And and the first one is, and I hope you will take this with the kind of tongue-in-cheek I'm going to say it in, and that is, what is a principal program manager of .NET community, and how do I become one? Microsoft.
It's a lot of work.
I do it anyway, pretty much. It's not being paid for it.
So there's junior, there's program manager 2, there's senior program manager, principal program manager, and when we think about somebody who's principal, it's in other organizations it's almost like a director equivalent.
Yeah,
many most of the principal level folks have people reporting to them. I do not yet. I do not currently, I should say.
I'll be the first one if you like.
But there's a level of innovation and product ownership that you have at that point where you own an engagement, you own a product more than just you're contributing to it, but you're providing leadership and influence, and you have responsibility for that thing. Now, as a senior program manager, I've owned ASP.NET Web Forms, I've owned NuGet and managed those. But now there's a level above that I've stepped into now where I own the interactions with several other groups. And now you have influence out of not just your product team, but into the rest of the division. So that's an area that I've stepped into, and we'll see in the next few months here as a couple of my initiatives start to land.
Yeah, and you help with putting on the MVP summit too, right?
Yeah, so I do help manage and coordinate a bit for the MVP program, and particularly I'm one of the lead content. Well, I am the co-lead content planner and manager for MVP Summit for Developer Technologies.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that for the last month and a half, I think. Yeah, since the beginning of November, we've been working on that.
When is the summit? March again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
all virtual. Yeah.
All virtual. It's all on the website, and yep, we're going back at the same level. It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you should. It's not going to be over, by March by any stretch.
I don't think all of us are going to be eligible for vaccines before March. It's going to take a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially here in America, it seems like we're getting some delays in shipments and things like that. And so, yeah, we'll have to see how things go. The reason I have some more questions, but the reason I asked you on the show actually was because on my very first show, my guest was Scott Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the people I've been thinking about, being on the show, you weren't really top on the list, and not because I don't like you or anything like that. It's because I figured you're on the internet every day. He doesn't want to come on my show, So I didn't really think about you. I would have gotten to you, but
oh gosh. Yes, I do broadcast. I am on the internet a lot, and
yeah.
Honestly, that came out of I was rejected from a lot of conferences. I mean,
I am for most. Yeah.
but Dave, there was a level of there was a level of disrespect that I felt because I am out proposing sessions and content, and I'll travel for free because of my employer to various conferences, and I'm proposing sessions on the products that I own and the products that I was related to, and that they influenced, and I was being declined in favor of other people. It's like, wait a sec, you're not taking my session on this product, but you're going to take this other person. I actually build that product. And so quite literally, I took a year and said, you know what, almost 2 years. And I said, you know what, I'm not submitting to anything. Why am I going to waste my time when I can blog and go on video? I have a YouTube channel. You mentioned I'm a YouTube partner, a Twitch channel. I'm a Twitch partner, and focus on that. And that's been quite good for me. So I look at that more as developer talk radio. And it's interesting, the difference between, like we're doing here, developer talk radio, discussing, we're not getting into the tech, right? We're not getting into the nuts and bolts and how different things fit together. But when I do on my stream, right, that was something that I saw was missing from some of the podcasts that I liked watching, was we never got into the tech. You never talked about, well, why do you do this? Or, hey, let's write some code together and let's see how this turns out. And I wanted to get deep into the tech. So that's where I went, and I wanted to go with it. But I didn't want to just, like other folks that I had seen, where they'll write a bunch of code and then they'll talk about it. I wanted to, like, play-by-play radio about, all right, we're going to write this Azure function, and here's what it's going to do, and let's figure this out. And gosh, chat room, what do you think if I do it this way? Or
kind of like Mark Miller does on his show too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by having this very engaging talk radio experience like that is deep into that content, it gets me into the nuts and bolts discussing things. But I do have folks that say, gosh, Fritz, I'd like to hear you actually explain and go into and show a sample and give a little bit more of a talk around some of this stuff. And that's fine. There's a place for that, and that's why I like doing sessions like this. And putting together content like that occasionally because there isn't a time and a place for it. But I think a lot of it's like the nuts and bolts discussion as well. I think there's definitely a level of that, being able to actually see and share screens and content makes it fun.
Well, as far as, not submitting the conferences, I posted an article, I think at the beginning of October, and it took me quite a few months to think about it and write it. And it's basically an article saying I'm not submitting the conferences anymore. Because I just can't do it anymore. The amount of rejection is hard on anybody. I mean, I don't deal well with rejection. So, when 90% of the conferences, I submit to get rejected year after year after year, then, and so especially now that we're all getting, used to virtual, not that I really want to, but, now that I am seeing I'm helping more people by being virtual and spending more time writing and things like that, then I said, and so it's actually still, high up on my page on my blog, but it basically says, conferences, if you want me to speak, you need to contact me, and here's the form. I'm not going to really do it anymore. I just,
what I ran into, and both as somebody who's on the speaking circuit, what I ran into was I wasn't a known name. Folks didn't know who I was. Folks didn't appreciate the expertise that I was bringing. They wouldn't even read my bio. So there was a level there of because they want to be blind in how they select content. So that's fine. I get it. No debate there. But as a conference organizer who's reviewing content, I'll take, for example, .NET Conf. We just had that here in November. We had more than 300 submissions for 80 slots, and I have to dedicate off the top about 24 slots to the product team. So, I've got 50, 60 slots left to allocate, and I've got to turn away more than 75% of the submissions. So then it becomes, okay, what are the topics we want to cover? How do I fill those? And where do I have the content that's going to fill that? If there's a spike in submissions for this type of topic that I want to make sure I cover, Blazor, okay, then maybe I want to adjust what I had as my initial theme allocations and give one or two more slots to Blazor and take away from a mobile development slot that I had over here to rebalance a little bit more towards where the audience is submitting, because that's where their interest is. There was a product that literally I had for 300 sessions. I had more than 30 submissions on, and it wasn't even on our radar. We're like, 10% of the submissions are about this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we should take a session or two about it. And we did.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's the way things go. But when you try to do things blind with as far as content and not look at names, right? And I think that's important for us as conference organizers, right? Don't look at the names. Don't look at their reputation. Don't look at where folks are coming from, especially since we're now virtual and anybody can be presenting from anywhere, right? I don't want to know your gender. I don't want to know your geography. I don't want to know your initial background. I want to read the content first, and then I'm going to give it a yes, no, or maybe. And the yeses and the maybes, then I'm going to open up and I want to look at, okay, who are they? Where are they coming from? Yeah. Because then I'm going to start to balance.
Yeah.
I need to figure out geographies, because if I have a 12-hour event, I want to make sure that I have folks who are East Coast of the States presenting at a time that's appropriate for them. And gosh, when we get later into the afternoon, evening for folks on the East Coast, that's when I'll bring in maybe some folks from Asia and from West Coast of the States to balance things out so that I've got a nice group there. And I'll bring in some European folks in the morning. So I've got a nice band across all of the geographies. Designing and planning content, it ends up being much more interesting, I'll say.
It's probably stressful, to kit it all together, especially with you're dealing with so many different individuals, and things like that. It's got to be tough doing that. I've always wanted to run a conference, but I've always wanted not to run a conference, because of that kind of stuff.
So I've run .NET Conf for the past 5 years. I've now I spun up and said, you know what, our live coder stream team on Twitch in February, as pandemic started to hit, we said, you know what, we've got a bunch of speakers on this group that, I mean, there were 150 members of the group. We've got a whole bunch of folks that are speakers. We've written all this content to present at conferences X, Y, and Z, and they're not happening. Wouldn't it be great if we had somewhere to present our content? And we spun up the first Live Coders conference the first week of April. And I mean, doing the marketing, the planning, and organizing for an online event took a lot of work. It was something that I wasn't expecting around the logistics of it. The content, no problem. I was dealing with professionals that had that down. But the content, the logistics around it and the marketing, some of that was eye-opening for me. And I landed the marketing kind of well, because that first event we were looking at running 8 hours. Then we said, now we can go for 12. Well, you know what? If we go for 16, we can actually span most of the world and get most folks on their time zone. And we ended up going for 18 hours for that first event. And we brought in almost 1.2 million viewers.
Wow.
That was something that lit up to us. This is a thing. And to try and repeat that pattern is the cat's out of the bag. Everybody, every other week there's a virtual event, and we've hit virtual event fatigue at this point. I don't think we're going to see events of that scale in one day going forward. Because
I think Stephen can put on the chat, but I think C# Corner had a 24-hour conference this year too. I think I spoke at it.
Cool.
I've spoken to so many of their events, I can't remember which is which anymore. But I did want to get to, the reason I invited you, and the reason I invited you was, Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff. You're Jeff. Scott Hunter, mentioned that that you've been working on a bunch of free Blazor controls that mimic, the normal HTML controls. And when he said that, I said, well, maybe I need to have Jeff on the show. And so,
sure.
So anyway, why don't you tell us a little bit about that project?
This project started about a year ago. I was preparing a session to go on stage with Daniel Roth, the program manager in charge of Blazor. And there we go, light up virtual conference right there. And Dan and I were going to be talking about Blazor for web forms developers, right? With the idea and the nudge that for folks who are on web forms and they want to get into the modern .NET, they want to deploy with Docker and get onto these other platforms, Blazor made sense. Blazor server side, so you stay still running on the server, minimize the amount of changeover that you do. And Dan and I started working together on our samples, and Dan said to me, well, hey, gosh, this sample where we replaced a list view control with a component, what if we actually named it list view? Yeah, hey, Dan, that's actually something. And if we emulated some of the properties and had it do some of the same things, now it gets interesting. Gosh. and right as we're about to go on stage, Dan says to me, this could be an open source project making this connection. And I said, do you mind if I run with that? I mean, that's something I could do on stream for a while. That'd be some really cool content. He said, yeah, go for it. So I started the Blazor Web Forms Components project. That was in October, November 2019. We started this with the idea of we want to generate Blazor components that have the same name and markup API as their ASP.NET Web Forms counterparts, with the idea that you should be able to migrate your markup, maybe not your entire application, but your markup from ASP.NET Web Forms to Blazor, and be able to reuse all the places you reference a list view, a grid view, the input controls, et cetera, et cetera. And after about a year of wrenching on this, we've got most of the components built. We've got a lot of the interactions down solid. We've got a tremendous unit test suite of 250 plus unit tests that examine every portion of every control that are now Blazor components to make sure they generate the same HTML from the same markup that you originally had. There's a couple changes you have to make here and there because
a lot of work.
It's been a ton of work. We've had folks in the community contribute, and it's gone somewhere. Now, there is a little bit of migration you have to do because one's .NET Framework, one's, well, now .NET 5, and right. I mean, I do have support for .NET 3.1 in there, but you have to do this migration and a little bit of rewriting from that web forms markup to Razor markup. So some friends who work on a product, I think you've
Code
connected
Factory.
with these folks. Code Factory. They helped put together a little template and a little bit of tooling that does that rewrite for you. So if you're using list view, data list, whatever ASP.NET component in your web forms, it appropriately replaces and reformats the web forms markup as Razor and uses, because it already knows here's your markup you had, reuses that markup. So we're wrenching on that. We're tuning it. We're making it better. And it's an open source set of templates that folks can get their hands on to work with, the open source set of components, and get migrated. This isn't like the solution for you've rewritten your application and it works in Blazor. Let's just get you into Blazor and get your application working. Because once you're over there, there's a whole world of tuning that you can do. I mean, I think we've both seen all the performance things that are available to you now when we think about C#9 and the way that you manage memory and the way that you can interact with Entity Framework Core and using ML.NET, these other tools and features that become available to you when you get onto the modern platform. And of course, then orchestrating Docker, Kubernetes, all of those things that become possible once you're out of Windows only and .NET Framework.
Yeah.
Then you're in a place where you can start to refactor and have some really cool experiences with your application. Breathe new life into that application that may have been 20 plus years old. Yeah,
I'm starting a new project, a new feature of the project that we released this year at work, and hopefully the next piece of it, we're going to do some of it in Blazor. And because, you know, a lot of people have asked me for years now is, you know, what do you think about Blazor? And I see a lot of promise in Blazor. I actually see it going somewhere. And before I ask a question, I want to, well, maybe I should ask this person's question because I'll forget.
Finish what you're saying about Blazor, and then we can go to the chat.
Oh, the thing I wanted to ask you, and because this is something I do at Microsoft, and since I haven't been there, you know, so is Microsoft dog fooding Blazor?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes.
For internal projects and stuff like that.
There's a couple of internal things that are using Blazor. There's folks internally that are testing and pushing the limits of what we can do with Blazor and experimenting and trying new things. And we'll hear more about that at MVP Summit. We'll see more of those things come to light as we look at .NET 6 in the future. They're very public about what's going on with the mobile Blazor bindings. But when we look at what Blazor could be, it's got a very bright future, and they've really done a nice job in hedging their bet by making sure that user interface framework works on now on .NET 5, and .NET 5 we know works on WebAssembly as a WebAssembly runtime and Windows, Mac, Linux runtime. So you can use that same user interface framework both server side and browser side. So even if the browsers do cut support, we're still in great shape.
Yeah. Cool. So the first question I would ask you from the chat is, because someone's already asked me this, so might as well have you answer it, is Blazor worth investigating for MVC team?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
So it's one thing to investigate, but if you have a significant MVC application, you've probably got a bunch of partials in there. You've probably got some shared views that you're reusing in there. And when you think about wanting to make that application run faster, make it feel more native, to be able to take some of that content and turn it into a Blazor component. Well, the Blazor component you can render on an MVC view, but if you start rendering more and more of that shared content as MVC views, then you can actually migrate those into a Blazor WebAssembly application, and now mount that and just share that, and you end up spotifying. Is that a phrase, Dave? Can we use that?
Spotifying?
Spotifying, not spotifying, but spa.
Spotifying.
SPA-ifying.
Oh, that's spa.
Right. You end up
okay.
Doing that. So so converting those partials are some of those first steps to now you can deploy and have it run offline. You can even have Blazor WebAssembly pre-rendered on the server, so it runs faster on that first request to the website.
Right, because that's been I think the biggest complaint about this, the client side, is the first time rendering of the assemblies and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a hit to download those things, but with the tree shaking and linking that's going on inside what's being delivered, it's a lot smaller, and it's actually I've published 2 websites using Blazor WebAssembly as Azure Static Web Apps. Both of them, folks didn't know they were Blazor applications.
Yeah, they don't have to know. If you don't use the template that comes with
right, and it's
when you make a Blazor application.
Yeah. When the non-technical folks, right, and to borrow a Harry Potter phrase, the muggles, the non-technical folks, when my mother, who's non-technical, right, she's a muggle, she doesn't know what these things are. When she looks at a website that I've written that's in Blazor and can't tell the difference between that and a JavaScript based application, whether it's Angular, Vue, React, what have you, and she thinks it's cool, and she understands and appreciates working with it. That's how we know, okay, we're on par with as far as the muggles go, right? When the technical folks say, it's still a little bit slow. All right. Yeah. We're almost there with getting them.
That's us. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
We're always picky because, that's our job, right?
It's 500 milliseconds slow, Dave.
Oh my God. Hey, don't get me started. It takes, the biggest performance issue with the app that I architected at work that we released in May, and it's for a Fortune 25 company. So I'm really proud of that. But the biggest problem we have is logging into freaking Salesforce, right? It takes 40 seconds to do the complete login to Salesforce. And that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, that's wrong.
So when our users hit the site for the first time the day, they're sitting there going, okay, where's the data? Oh yeah, I have to wait 40 seconds. It's yeah. Okay.
That's annoying. Yeah. No. A half second tops. Yeah. Tops is where we need to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Too many people don't really think about that too much.
Yeah. Google has some good recommendations on speed requirements.
Yep. So Mahesh said he's building large project in Blazor after comparing dev speed with Angular and React.
Nice. Yep. Nice.
Yeah. Because to me, I mean, I haven't done any action. All my code performance book is about code. It's not about Blazor and things like that. To me, when Blazor was first coming out, and people would ask me, do you think it's going to be as slow as JavaScript and stuff like that? I go, no, because it's compiled.
Yeah.
Right. And so anything compiled is going to be theoretically better, right? Than something that's scripted, right? It's been that way our whole life, pretty much, right?
And right, we are seeing Blazor WebAssembly pick up speed. It is still about a half step behind the JavaScript runtime, and part of that is just folks haven't been optimizing the WebAssembly runtime inside of browsers yet.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Yeah.
So
cool. See, would have any other? Oh, I want to go back on one question.
Sure.
Because we're talking about Blazor. What was the question? It was about. I think it was about
I see a question here about folks struggling upgrading from .NET Core 2.2 to .NET Core 3.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you can answer that.
From Nuwala? Is that Mininwala? Mininwa? There you go. Doing my best here to pronounce that. You'd like to know more about how to do that major version migration. There was a decent article on the .NET blogs when .NET Core 3 was released, because we're thinking about only ASP.NET at that point. The other frameworks hadn't been migrated. It's mostly changes in the startup class that you see for that. But once you get past those, all of your controllers and views should be running the same. Let me know where you're seeing an issue there. But it's primarily in the startup class, and it's not so much in the configure services. It's going to be in the configure method, because they changed the way that some of the ASP.NET pieces are registered. The way that we add routes now, and we define endpoints, that changed a little bit. So there is an article about that, like I said, on the ASP.NET blog, and I think there's even an article in the docs on docsmicrosoft.com about migrating that you should be able to find. And please don't upgrade to .NET Core 3. Upgrade to .NET Core 3.1. Yeah.
Or 5. Right.
Or 5. 3.1 if you need the long-term support. 5 is what we call a current release, and is only going to be supported until the next one.
Next year. Right.
Yeah.
So, well, at least start moving to the higher version, right? Not 3. Yeah.
And there's something to be said. The folks that I've talked to who have done the upgrade from .NET Core 3.1 to .NET 5 of their ASP.NET apps, it literally been change the version number in the config file, in the project file, and it just works.
That's the way it's been. Well, I haven't done ASP.NET yet, but I'm converting all of my open source projects to .NET 5 right now, and I'm almost done with the first one, I think. And that's literally what it was. I just went in and changed it from 3.1 to 5, and boom. It was pretty much
kudos to the team for providing that level of backward compatibility.
Yeah. We haven't had that so great in the past 20 years of .NET, right? So
no, right, the folks who work with Angular and React and I hear this from folks who program Swift, they don't have that type of experience migrating on their frameworks. Yeah. So definitely something that I think is underappreciated in our .NET community because of how well we've had it.
Yeah. Well, we've been through a lot of pain, So I think Microsoft the .NET team has learned that and has been trying to make it better. So, but yeah, we have 20 years of pain. Those guys don't have that much, right?
So what really struck me, and I can talk about this, is the hey, great, glad to hear you're gonna take a look there. When folks like the Bing team, right? I mean, they're managing a search engine, and they confidently migrate from .NET Core 3.1 to .NET 5, and without a step, and it makes their already fast search engine faster. That says something that day one they're on .NET 5. I
didn't know they were on .NET 5 already.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's another reason. I think this week I tweeted to Scott Hunter that the shenanigans I'm having with Firefox. I think I'm going during this Christmas. I'm not working next week, so I'm going to take this time to move a lot of my stuff over to Edge. I think because of some of this stuff's been going on with just sites not working right in Firefox and just having issues. But no, what was the other thing? I was tweeting about it'll come back to me.
I do have something to send you that he asked me to put together for you. I'm going to make sure that I get that sent out here in the next day or two.
Oh, is that my hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 months ago, he said, your hat's coming. And every day I look, I go, where's my hat?
It's literally sitting here waiting to go out the door. So
no
we'll make that happen.
Believe me.
So one of only 3 in the world.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I mentioned on the show, and he said, "Okay, I'll have to get you one." Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yep.
that's what happens.
We'll
That's
get
what
it sent out.
happens, geeks. When you ask somebody for something, you might just get it. The problem is you have to ask, right?
You have to ask, and sometimes the answer will be no, and sometimes
Yeah.
the answer will be yes.
Yeah.
So, yep, we'll make that happen.
Yeah. Cool. So let's see, no more questions. Come on, I thought we'd get a ton of questions today because of Blazor. There was
Oh,
yeah,
we go
there
from
you go.
Sean.
Yeah.
Does Blazor eliminate the need for JavaScript frameworks on the client? Eliminate's a strong word. I would prefer not to use JavaScript frameworks on the client, because then you're loading two frameworks to do business logic on the client. I think there are times that you do need to reach out and interact with elements and the browser so that you can get feedback from the browser. Great example. I'm working on a website that I want to be mobile friendly using Blazor. Well, when I do the layout, when I decide what elements I want to paint on the screen, I can do a certain amount of that with media queries and with CSS, but darn it, I don't want to render and go through the steps and the business logic to build out parts of the website that I'm not going to present, because it's not going to be on the screen. I'm on a mobile device. So things like that, where I need to make a request from the browser and interact with those browser APIs, you don't need a JavaScript framework, but you do need to do a little bit of JavaScript to pull out some of those features, some of that detection. If I want to work with the GPS on the browser, I still need to write a little bit of code, a little bit of bridge code to reach into JavaScript and grab that. Things like scrolling, right? A great example is the new virtualized component in Blazor. There's a little bit of JavaScript there where it's detecting the scroll and raising events back into .NET, and I can wire up an event handler in .NET that goes and does something whenever that scroll event happens. Really, really cool to see and be able to provide that two-way interaction between JavaScript and Blazor. And it's, fortunately for us, if you use that virtualized component, it's hidden from us. And gosh, you mentioned CodeRush, our friends at DevExpress. Their components have certain JavaScript elements so that they can reach over into the browser, pull information back, and still provide as rich a Blazor experience as possible.
Yeah. So we only have time for like one more question. So
oh my goodness.
I can't believe the time is gone already. So somebody asked, actually the last person to ask you a question was, what about automation testing? Have you looked at that, or what do you prefer? Or
so
I'm assuming he's talking of websites.
Well, right. When we think about websites, and I think that's in reference also to Blazor. I think there's a great framework out there that we can use to interact with the Blazor components, called BUnit, that you can get your hands on. That's from Eagle Hansen. Really great framework. I use it extensively in those Blazor web forms components so that I can verify the HTML that's rendered, and I can verify the interaction with the components. Now, that's more of a unit test framework for those user interface components. But if I want to get into the complete level of automation that's being requested here, frameworks like Selenium, where I want to do that integration automation testing, you can still use Selenium to do that, just as you would use Selenium with any other JavaScript SPA framework, right? Angular, React, Vue. To those frameworks like Selenium, it's going to behave and interact the same way. And I haven't used Selenium in any of my projects. Now you've got me thinking, darn it, I need to start wiring up a Selenium integration test for some of the project for this project I'm currently working on. But it should work exactly the same. And Selenium feels like it's been a gold standard here for many, many years. I know folks that actually spin up Docker containers and headlessly let Selenium run against the containers during integration tests, nightly integration tests, to make sure that nothing breaks. I would Now you've got me thinking that'd be a good idea for a show that I need to run through on
Yeah.
my stream. Is
Well,
hey, let's fire up Selenium to a project.
Yeah, I think, thinking about it, I think you really do, because, one of the things that I've seen, even in, the company I work at now, that nobody uses stuff like that,
Yeah.
and even the first release of our product, back in May, there's some stuff that got released that shouldn't have, right? And that's all because, the testing wasn't, number one, we didn't have automated testing, and number two, that it wasn't tested correctly. So, it's, I think an important part of a release of anything, major, or at least as public as, like this product is got to have, not only unit testing, but, code analytics, but also memory performance testing, which I do, and also the automated web testing, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, before you release, this should be part of the cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And even if you do a bug fix, you should still go through that cycle, right? And
you're making me cringe now, Dave. I'm thinking about this website I'm working on and thinking, oh, I need to build some of these things, because I'm trying to get to minimum viable. I'm trying to get it working as fast as possible. But I have other little applications. It's like, I don't really need
not for little ones, but
depth of that.
But when you have either enough data you're manipulating, then it has to be done that way. And
for sure.
And I think, companies, don't do it for two reasons. One is they don't want to pay for it, right? Yes. For some reason, they think human capital is cheaper than software, which I never understand. And then they just don't hire people who really want to sit down and figure out the automated part of the testing, right? Because it takes work, and anybody relying on human testing is.
And you know what? Our friends at GitHub, our friends who work on Azure DevOps, they've made it drop dead simple to, at the very least, get the automated build and automated deployment to some quality assurance area. Right. You're already halfway there to wiring up the testing.
Right.
So if you've got enough people that are doing testing, have somebody, instead of pressing the same button 17 times a day to test to make sure that this thing works, write a script to do that. Now you free up some of their time.
So you can record the clicks and everything and display them back,
Yes.
Yeah. It's not that, it's not super difficult. You just have to, it just have to sit down and do it,
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I talk a lot about my teams, is we have to automate everything we possibly can, right? Yeah. Including deployments to QA or dev or whatever, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
When I look at the unit testing for those Blazor components, I mentioned there's 250 some unit tests. I know immediately that they're rendering properly. It takes 5 seconds, 10 seconds to run all of those tests, and it's rendering and interacting with them, inside of a Blazor runtime. So not as fast as a traditional unit test, not as slow as a full test, integration test that opens a browser and clicks on things. And right, I mean, there's a level of confidence and insurance that gives you, right? And gentlemen, when I first started really getting into unit testing and test-driven development, describe those tests as an insurance policy for me. And it only took the first time for my employer to see, oh, we didn't test this feature completely when we deployed this fix, and over here this other side thing broke. And he'd been hearing me talk about insurance policy for months and months. He was like, can you write a test to cover that so that when we deploy, we know that thing's fixed? Sure. Yeah. And it was our first unit tests, and it built, and yeah. Yeah.
And if you use the, for some reason, I'm drawing the blank of the exact name, the live unit testing in Visual Studio now.
Oh my gosh,
that's pretty cool. I don't leave it on all the time, but when I'm trying to figure out if I have my test coverage and all that kind of stuff, I do use it, and I think it's pretty dang cool.
There was a competing product, two competing products before that. One called Mighty Moose, and that stopped development. I don't think that's supported any longer. But the other one is called NCrunch, and they're tremendous to. You're right. As you're writing tests, as you're getting ready to deploy features, to be able to see where all your coverage is, where your code is being properly tested, and to also see those side effects as you refactor and make changes. Huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. So we're going to go over time. So I have two last questions for you, but these are quick ones. First is, what do you do for fun besides coding and doing these live streams?
What do I do for fun? So my family has a couple horses that we keep at a local farm that we lease space at, and I spend time with my daughters and wife taking care of horses and managing that over there. That's something that's been enjoyable. Of course, since I got engaged with the Twitch platform more than 3 years ago now, I watch a lot of Twitch and hang out with folks from the Twitch communities. There's a lot of really great stuff that people are doing there that I want to support their efforts. So it's weird. I've stopped watching TV almost exclusively because I watch so much Twitch, which is right, just folks hanging out, either playing games or talking, and I find it much more compelling to be able to have that level of engagement with the presenter. So,
well, not many people know this because I really don't say this very much, but when I was a teenager, I lived on a ranch that had my own horse. So yeah, I used to go riding up in the mountains on the weekends, and I did the whole horse thing. I had cowboy boots, and I didn't have a cowboy hat. That was going a little too far for me, but cowboy boots, the whole thing. Yeah, it's
very cool. Right. Yeah.
So, is there anything you want to plug before we go?
So I'm getting ready to. I've been slowly building out and getting ready to launch a new website called Clip Talk that is going to give Twitch clips a social media spin very similar to TikTok. Yeah. So I've been slowly building this. I built a good chunk of it on stream because of interactions in building some of the security pieces that work with this. I've pulled back and I'm not sharing the source code for it anymore just to protect myself. But I'm building that, and it's not ready for everybody to go and just start hammering on it. But it's out there, it's public, and I'm slowly adding new features, and it's completely built with Blazor and Azure Static Web Apps. So I'm real excited to, during the break here, put in a little bit more time with that, tinker and get back into building websites that folks can use, right? Public internet can use.
Yeah, so. Awesome. Well, if when you're done with that project, if you want to come on the show and talk about how you exactly built it, I feel free to reach out. Sure. And you can come on anytime. I have a free slot next year.
Oh, I'd be happy to. That sounds great, Dave. Thank you.
All right. It's great talking to you, Jeff. And I hope you and your daughters and your horses have a wonderful Christmas, and stay safe and don't get COVID.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Dave. And all the folks all the viewers out there, everybody in the chat rooms, you have a good one. Have a good holiday, and I'll catch you later.
Okay, great. I'll see you next year. All right. That was awesome show with Jeff. I wish it was 2 hours as most of my shows. I do want to give a plug out really quick to Code Factory, who Jeff is working with, and I'm starting to work with too. Jeff is working with him on the Blazor stuff, but I'm going to be working with him on doing automated code generation for code quality, because that's what I'm all into. So I want to say that I'm going to be working on that next week. I'm off all next week, so I got to have something to do. So okay. The giveaway for today, I think I did enable the audio, so I don't know if you're going to be hear it, because I finally found my Guitar Jeopardy song. So this question actually came from one of my team members not knowing the answer to this yesterday. So I want to see who knows the answer, and whoever types in the complete full answer will get the C# Corner gift bag. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. What does SMTP stand for? Oh, I can hear the sound. I don't know if you can. What does SMTP stand for? It's got something that, no, I can't give you any clues because then you're going to know what it means. I'll give you a clue. The last letter stands for protocol. There you go. There's a clue. Anybody know SMTP? Going once, going twice? Takes simple messaging transfer protocol. Yes. So Stephen, please contact our winner, and then we'll get some stuff out to you. And well, C# Corner will very soon. Okay. All right. So thanks for watching, everybody, this year. 10 awesome episodes, I think, I've had this year. And I want to say a special thank you to Mahesh, who runs C# Corner, for asking me to do the show. And I want to say a special thank you to Stephen, who's my producer on the show, that does all the graphics and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for asking. And Stephen, thanks for working so hard and staying up so late in India, so I don't have to get up super early. I appreciate it. So please be safe again out there. COVID is really bad in America right now. It's really bad in California. So please stay safe. Don't go anywhere for the holidays, please, please, please. And if you can, during the holiday break, please go give blood at your local blood donation center. It's free, it's easy, and it'll make you feel good for helping out somebody else who is trying to deal with COVID or something else, some other accident or something like that. Okay? Please be safe, everybody. And oh, I'm going to play the last part of the guitar thing I showed you last week. So last week was songs by Collective Soul. This week is for the metal fans. So it's only like a minute. So Steven, I'm only going to be like one more minute. Oh, wait. There's no audio. Never mind. Anyway, thanks for the show. And I'll see you all on January 9th, 2021. Happy holidays.